Nervous system. In this module, we are going to discuss on the topic what is a nervous system, neuron, the different types of nervous system, that is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, its working and the functioning. So let's get started. What is a nervous system? In multicellular animals, there are present many organs and the organ system. Every organ system, it performs a specific function. But all these organ systems collectively constitute an organism. In our body and in the body of other higher animals are present two such systems which control and coordinate the diverse activities of the millions of the small cells, body organs, etc. One is the endocrine system and the other is nervous system. So, the system that controls and coordinates all the activities of the various body parts in response to the external and internal stimuli by the conduction of the nerve impulses is termed as nervous system. The system has the ability to respond to several stimuli simultaneously and spontaneously also. The nervous system, is also termed as the master system of the body. It controls all the other systems by sending and receiving messages through a special cells termed as neurons. There are certain units, the terms which are used for the nervous system. So let's discuss about them one by one. The first one is stimulus. It is an agent or a change in the external and internal environment that conduces the reaction in the body. The second term is the response. Response is a change in the activity in the body of an organism due to the stimulus. The third term is receptor. Receptor are the nerve cells or an organ which is capable of perceiving the stimuli and set up an impulse towards the central nervous system. The next is the effectors. Effector is the body parts such as the muscles or the glands which act according to the orders which is given by the central nervous system. And the last term is the impulse. Impulse, it refers to the electric signal which is produced by a neuron when it is stimulated. These impulses are also termed as action potential. Unit of the nervous system. To carry out the highly specialized functions, the nervous system is made up of highly specialized cells which are termed as neurons or the nerve cells. These are the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. These neurons are able to perform these specialized functions because of mainly two properties, that is, the irritability and the conductibility. Structurally, these neurons, it consists of three main parts. The first one is the cyton. Cyton is the main part of the neuron and also known as pericardium. It is bounded from the outside by a simple cell membrane. The only organelle which is absent in the cyton is the centrosome. This is the reason the nerve cells doesn't have the ability to divide themselves. The second is the dendrites. Dendrites are the one-to-many highly branched but small projections arising from the cyton. As shown in the picture, these are the dendrites, the small projections arising from the cyton. They conduct the nerve impulses from synapses towards the cell body. The third part of the neuron is the axon. From the cyton arises always one very long process termed as axon. As shown in this picture, this very long process is termed as the axon. It may be from few millimeter to 1 meter in the length. In all the neurons, it is surrounded by a white insulating sheath which is termed as the myelin sheath. The gap which is present between the dendrites and the axon terminal is termed as the synaptic cleft. These dendrites and the axon are collectively known as nucleus. Division of the nervous system. On the division of the nervous system, as we see, this nervous system is divided mainly into two parts as the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. First, the central nervous system. All the parts of the nervous system which are present along the median longitudinal axis of the body constitutes the central nervous system. It consists of the brain and the spinal cord. It is hollow, dorsally placed structure lying along the mid-dorsal axis of the body. And the second part is the peripheral nervous system, the part of the nervous system that consists of the whitish thread-like nerves which connects the various body muscles and the sense organs with the central nervous system are termed as peripheral nervous system. The nerve originates from the brain and the spinal cord and are termed as the cranial and the spinal nerves. This peripheral nervous system is further divided into two as somatic and autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is further divided as sympathetic and parasympathetic. Now in the further slides we are going to discuss about the division of the nervous system. So let's move on to the next slide there. Central nervous system. As told to you all earlier, that the central nervous system is divided into two parts as the brain and the spinal cord. So first one is we are going to discuss about the brain. The human brain is highly developed. It is the largest among all the animals. In an average, it weighs about 1,350 gram. It is made up of about 1,000 million neurons. Our brain consumes 20% of the total oxygen taken into the body. If blood reaching the brain has low glucose content, then the dizziness, mental confusion, loss of the conscious occurs. The brain is placed and well protected in the cranial cavity, or commonly termed as the brain box of the skull. It is protected by three membranous covering called the meninges, which constitutes the backward on the spinal cord. The three coverings are pyometer, arachoid, and the durameter. Between these meninges are present the spaces which are filled with the cerebrospinal fluid, that is also termed as CSF. These CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid, serve as a shock absorbing medium and it protects the brain and the central nervous system against the jerks and the jolts. An instrument called EEG, that is electroencephalogram, it records the waves of the brain. The second part of the central nervous system is the spinal cord. Spinal cord is a long, unsegmented, cord-like structure. It carries the signals which is present between the brain and the rest of the body. The spinal cord, it forms a vital link between the brain and rest of the body. If the spinal cord is damaged, this messaging system will not work, resulting into a bladder problem. The human spinal cord is made up of 33 bones. Now let's discuss about this brain and the spinal cord in detail. Brain. If we talk about the brain is mainly divided into three main parts as the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. So we are going to discuss about these three types of brains one by one. The first one is your forebrain. Forebrain is further divided into three parts as olfactory lobe, cerebrum and diencephalon. The first one is your olfactory lobe. They are the pair of poorly developed, cup-shaped, widely separated bodies. They are visible from the ventral surface only. And these olfactory lobes are mainly concerned with the sense of the smell. The second part of the this forebrain is the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part and it forms 4/5 weight of the brain. It consists of the right and the left lobes termed as cerebral hemisphere. Each hemisphere is hollow from inside and their walls have two regions as outer cortex which contains the grey matter and the inner medium which which contains the white matter. These gray and the white matters are responsible for the intelligence. If we talk about the functioning of the cerebrum, it is the seat of memory, willpower, emotion, experience, intelligence, reasoning, learning, invent, and pain. It initiates and controls the movements of the stripped muscles. It controls the conscious sensation and all the voluntary actions. This cerebrum, it perceives the sensory impulses such as the pain, touch, taste, smell, hearing, and sight. The conscious or the unconscious mind is also located in the cerebrum region only. The third part of the forebrain is the diencephalon. Diencephalon is a small rhomboidal lobe completely covered superiorly by a large cerebrum but visible from the inferior side as a small area. It lies between the cerebrum and midbrain. This diencephalon is further distinguishable into two parts as thalamus and hypothalamus. The thalamus, it acts as a relay center for pain, pressure, impulses of the cerebrum. And this hypothalamus, it controls the body temperature, controls of the pituitary glands and the blood pressure. The next part of the brain is the midbrain. Midbrain for human is significantly a small, thick stalk about 2 centimeters long. It is also known as mesemphylgum. It is associated with vision, hearing, motor control, sleep, wakefulness, and temperature. It connects the forebrain with the cerebellum and the hindbrain. The main function of the midbrain is to control the sight and auditory impulses. The third part of the brain is the hindbrain. Hindbrain is the posterior, small part of the brain, and this hindbrain is differentiated into three parts as pons varolii, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. So let's discuss about these three again. The first one is pons. It is centrally located below the cerebellum. It carries the main function if we talk about this pons, it carries the impulses from the medulla to the forebrain. And it also carries the impulses from one hemisphere of the cerebellum to the other and coordinates the muscular movements on both the sides. The second part of the hindbrain is the cerebellum. Cerebellum is the largest part of the hindbrain. It is present below the cerebrum and above the medulla oblongata behind the pons. It consists of two large lateral lobes called cerebellar hemisphere. It has an inner core of white matter surrounded by a grey matter. If we talk about the functioning of the cerebellum, it helps to maintain the balance or equilibrium during the movement. The cerebellum, it controls and coordinates the muscular activities also. The third part of the hindbrain is the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is about 2.5 centimeter long that extends from the pons to the spinal cord, almost triangular in shape and hollow from inside. Talking about the functioning of the medulla oblongata, it controls the involuntary activities of the internal organs like the beating of the heart, movement of the breathing, sneezing, swallowing, vomiting, coughing, hiccupping, peristaltic movements of the alimentary canal also. The next part of the central nervous system is the spinal cord. So let's discuss about the spinal cord now. Spinal cord is a long, unsegmented, cord-like structure extending from the medulla of the brain through the neural canal of the vertebral column to the lumbar region. It is about 45 centimeter in length and 35 gram in weight. Like the brain, it is also covered by three membranes called meninges. The space present between these meninges are full of cerebrospinal fluid. The walls of the vertebrae, meninges, and the cerebrospinal fluid protects the spinal cord. Like the brain, the spinal cord is also made up of grey and the white matter. But in the spinal cord, the arrangement is reversed in comparison to the brain. The white matter is externally present while the grey matter is internal in position. The spinal cord is hollow from inside, containing a cavity which is termed as central canal. If we talk about the functioning of the spinal cord, it functions as a reflex center which controls all the spinal reflexes, and the spinal cord tracts serve as a two-way conduction path between the peripheral nervous system and the brain. Now let's discuss about the second part of the nervous system, that is the peripheral nervous system. All the whitish thread-like nerves which connects the various body parts with the central nervous system collectively constitutes the peripheral nervous system. This peripheral nervous system is further divided into two as somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system is then further contains two types of the nerves, that is the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves, and this autonomic nervous system, it contains the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The primary role of this peripheral nervous system is to connect the central nervous system to the organs, limbs and skin. These nerves extend from the central nervous system to the outermost areas of the body. The peripheral nervous system, or the PNS, it allows the brain and the spinal cord to receive and send information to other areas of the body which allow us to react to the stimuli in our environment. Now let's discuss about the different types of peripheral nervous system in detail. The first one is the somatic nervous system. The somatic nervous system is a part of the peripheral nervous system which is responsible for carrying the sensory and the motor information to and from the central nervous system. The somatic is derived from a Greek word, soma, which means body. It is responsible for transmitting the sensory information as well as for voluntary movements also. The somatic nervous system contains two major types of the nerves as informed earlier, that is the cranial nerve and the spinal nerves. So let's discuss about this cranial and the spinal nerves one by one. The first one is the cranial nerve. Those nerves which arise from the brain are termed as the cranial nerves. These are 12 pairs of cranial nerves there in the body. They can be the sensory, for example the olfactory nerves of the nose, optic nerves of the eye, and the auditory nerve of the ear. It can be in motor, for example the oculomotor nerve which is going to the eye muscles, and it can be in mixed in nature also. That is the mixed nerves, for example the facial nerves which are going to and coming from the faces. The second type of nerve of the somatic nervous system is the spinal nerves. These spinal nerves, they arise from the spinal cord and they are 31 pairs in a human body. They are classified into following 5 groups as the first one, as shown in picture also here. The first one is the cervical spinal nerve in the neck region, which is in 8 pairs. Second is the thoracic spinal nerves, which is present in the thoracic region and 12 pairs in number. Third is the lumbar spinal nerve present in the abdomen, again 5 pairs in nerves. Fourth is the sacral spinal nerves, which is present in the hip region. It is also in 5 pairs. And the last one is coccygeal spinal nerve, which is present in the tail region and it is in 1 pair only. The last part of the peripheral nervous system is the autonomic nervous system. That part of the nervous system which controls all the involuntary activities of the various body parts is termed as ANS or autonomic nervous system. The involuntary activities like the blood flow, heartbeat, digestion, breathing. This ANS system, it allows these functions to take place without needing to the consciously thinking about them, which is happening. This ANS, that is the autonomic nervous system, is further divided into two as parasympathetic and sympathetic. So let's discuss about these two parts also. The first one is the sympathetic. By regulating the flight or the fight responses, the sympathetic nervous system prepares the body to extend the energy to respond to the environmental threats. When the action is needed, the sympathetic system triggers a response by accelerating the heart rate, increasing the breathing rate, boosting the blood flow to the muscles, activating the sweat secretion, and dilating the pupils. The second part of the autonomic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system helps to maintain the normal body functions and conserves the physical resources. Once a threat has passed, the system will slow down the heart rate, slow the breathing, it reduces the blood flow to the muscles, constricts the pupil. This allows us to return our bodies to a normal resting state. So, this was the functioning of the peripheral, this autonomic nervous system in detail. Now, here are few of the questions related to the material which is discussed on the about the nervous system. So, you all can test yourself.